Welcome to Xero Hero, a short video blog from HBA Encompass aimed to make your Xero journey easier. Please note that all the slides today have been created from existing Xero training videos. Xero has rapidly changed in the past few years, so sometimes the pictures are using old screenshots or overseas versions. Where possible, each session is followed up by a live demonstration. If you have any queries regarding any content delivered today, feel free to contact me via email, victoria@hbaencompass.com.au or phone 0754 447094. Welcome to Xero Files.
I don't know that there's a lot there that's different to what we've mentioned in the past. As we know, the little filing cabinet at the top takes us to the file library. We can upload files or we can take a photo. I think we mentioned this in previous weeks, but take a photo is not going to work too well on a laptop or on a desktop because you're holding a bit of paper up in front of your camera and you can't see what it is. Very, very useful on an iPad or a phone. Xero does have some folders that are automatically set up down the side. You can add as many folders as needed, but keep in mind it's only a small description on the side there. So if you name a folder a long name, it actually hides behind this line here where it says inbox, which is really irritating. And I know this from experience because I've got some files in a Xero file that I use a lot, and you've just got to make sure that anything that you name is short and sweet. Okay. Otherwise, particularly if there's things that are similar, like for instance, I've got bank statements and account numbers, and I'm loading the actual PDF of the bank statements up there, but all I see is bank statements, bank statements, bank statements, and the account numbers are hidden. So I need to go through and change my headings so that it's easy to work out which one that I need to go into. It also tells you how many documents you have in each of these files here. If you upload a file and you move it across to one of these folders here, you will need to upload it again if you want to attach it to an invoice or a bill. You can't grab it from these ones here. It makes it disappear. Okay. So as we mentioned, you can click and upload from wherever you want to do it from, and we can email invoices or documents to that email address there to get things into files as well. Okay, so we'll talk about that one there. And then once they're there, you can click on it and add to a new invoice, bill, expense, receive money, spend money, or fixed asset. So it's a nice, easy process once you get the documents in there, and they seem to take basically any kind of document. So it could be a good place to perhaps save your logos and stuff like that if necessary. And you can always download anything that is there as well and get it back onto a desktop or wherever you want it to be. You can move it to a folder. You can either drop and drag or you can move to a new folder, and you can drop and drag documents from your desktop or another folder or an email across to the upload files as well. Okay. So the actual attaching of invoices, I think, is pretty obvious, but we haven't looked at the spend money or the add or the receive money. So we've only looked at invoices where we've been creating a purchase invoice or creating a sales invoice. So what you do is when you actually do the new spend money, you click on spend money and you pick what bank account and you put the details in. So ideally that's something that's not gone through the bank account as yet, because otherwise what happens is it comes across as an unreconciled item, and if you've already reconciled the payment, then it's going to be in there twice. Okay, so it's a feature, but whether it's an awesome feature, I'm in two minds about that one. Once you do attach a file, whether it be to a transaction or an invoice, you can see the little the button here shows you how many files are attached as well, and I think we've covered that in previous weeks as well. And we've also spoken about whether we include the document with the invoice. So a prime example might be, say here I invoice you for accounting fees including Xero fees. And if I put the Xero invoices in there for your file, then I could choose to include those with the accounting fees so that you can see them all, or I can not attach them and just have them there for me to have a look at for the documentation. So when you're spending something and charging someone else for it where you've got to provide proof, then you do need to tick to include with an invoice. And that's in that little settings button. Can you see that little one there? So you just click on that one and include with the invoice. So you can also, when you go to send an invoice, it'll say include PDF attachments, and if you do that, they'll come through as well. Okay, but sometimes you may not want to include them, particularly if you're putting a big fat markup on them and not telling the person that you're on selling. But yeah, generally, if it's something that's in there, there may be a reason for it. So, attaching a file from your invoice or directly into a transaction won't save it in the files directory. So, we spoke just before about going into files and then adding it to an invoice. If you're creating an invoice or a purchases, that's probably a prime example, you're creating your Telstra bill to go in there, and you click on the files icon within create the bill and you drag and drop or you attach a document, it doesn't go into the files library then attach, it just goes straight to that transaction. In the same way that we spoke about, if you put things in the file library and then you attach it to a transaction, it disappears out of the file library. A document stored in custom folders can be attached to as many transactions as you need. So I didn't know that, I just learned something new. And you can create the transaction from the document in the file library as well. So the same way that you can create a bill from the file library, if you're in the actual document, you can go through. So we'll have a look at that in a sec. Okay. To delete them is quite an easy process. It's just a matter of clicking on it, going to your settings and hit delete. And then it will just double check that you want to delete it. So I don't think it's anything different to anything that most of us do on computers most days. Doubled up. So, and in the file library, you can just click on it and delete it. And a prime example of that is if I get an invoice here and I forward it by email to my file library, when it comes up, it'll put the PDF of the invoice, but then it'll put all the little pictures and JPEGs and stuff that's down the bottom of my email footer. It'll put my link to Facebook, it'll put my HBA Encompass logo. And so if I do a few of them, they're all going to be sitting there clogging up my file inbox. So you can just go through and select them and hit delete and remove them. Or if you have sent something and you do it again, you can delete it. Okay. So it's quite an easy process. As you delete it, if as soon as you delete it you realised you mucked up, there is an undo. But once you go on to the next thing, that undo function is not around. But you can always re-upload something if you need to. My name's Victoria Berry. I'm one of the directors of HBA Encompass. So if you need to contact me, my email address is victoria@hbaencompass.com.au, or of course our phone number is 0754 44 7094. Thanks for listening.